Let's talk a liver disease. Okay, liver flukes. Liver flukes are going to be ingested, one of their stages, and they're going to swim up through via the gallbladder to the liver because they really like the bile. In a clinical setting, if a patient presents with inflamed liver, malfunctioning liver, their liver enzymes are off, they're showing jaundice, there is fever, what you want to do is you want to look at the white blood cell count. Swollen liver, malfunctioning liver, jaundice, but the white blood cell count, specifically the eosinophil count, is still normal or low normal. That indicates you should focus on hepatitis, one of the hepatitis viruses. If swollen liver, inflamed liver, malfunctioning liver, jaundice, but the eosinophil numbers are skyrocketing, that is indicative of schistosoma. What we have here is two species, Schistosoma masoni and Schistosoma japonicum. Okay, they are both flukes that are going to be in different regions, and the transmission is going to be slightly different. There is a third Schistosoma haemobotanum, but we're not going to worry about this one because this one likes to go into the bladder. When you look at schistosomiasis that is targeting the liver, you're going to see, what you think of as liver disease, the spleen's going to swell up. Because there is, some penetration, sometimes maybe the larvae or even the eggs may penetrate the abdominal or the intestinal wall, get into the bloodstream. You could see the eggs will settle out, in the capillary beds of the nervous system, the capillary beds in the heart. Once there, you get inflammatory response and you get what's called a granuloma. Granuloma is nothing more than your body triggered by the inflammatory response, trying to wall off using cells that are not typical for that tissue. Cell types not typical there. They will try to wall off and sequester the parasite. So it literally, in some x-rays, it'll look like a tumor. But it's not a tumor. It's your immune cells and surrounding cells just reforming the tissue there to wall off the egg or a larvae. What we see here is that the life cycle for these guys is a bit weird because they have a free living larval stage. We pass out the eggs in our feces. Eggs get into the water, they hatch. Those larvae, that first larval stage, will then go find a snail, some form of arthropod, some form of invertebrate. Burrow in and then go through a few larval stages. Then it will then burrow out, exit out, still in the water, and then we'll go to a mammal host, usually us, where that larvae will then burrow in and then will, get into the circulatory system, settle out in the liver, or we will ingest the snail that has, or the invertebrate that has the larvae in it. We just eat it raw. Now we have the larvae in us that will then burrow out, or swim up, the gallbladder. Major problem with these guys is it's hard for our body to recognize they're there. Multicellular organism that has the ability to pull host proteins out of the serum, out of the lymphatic system, from surrounding cells and the tissues it's migrating through, and then it will coat itself in literally the patient's own proteins, surface proteins, so that when our immune system comes to interact with it, it will be mistakenly recognized as self. Eosinophils will not try to kill it, macrophages won't try to kill it, and B cells won't recognize it. So this way, the fluke can remain in a host, in the patient, for months, years, pretty much almost indefinitely. So what we see happens, in areas this is endemic, you're going to see ponds, fields that are going to be irrigated with human feces. You're going to see a lot of these schistosomiasis in Southeast Asia. China, Korea, Japan used to, Laos, all these places where they cultivate rice, and in the rice paddies they fertilize them with human waste. Eggs pass out in the feces, hatches, remember, larvae then swim to the nearest invertebrate, a snail, a slug, whatever, burrows in, goes through larval stages, burrows out, finds the nearest mammal, pretty much us, too, and burrows in, and then goes on walkabout. We also see it in reduced numbers, South America, Africa, not that they don't grow rice or anything like that. Their cultivation doesn't always use lots of water, because that's the one thing, you have to have lots of standing water. But they do have water sources that the sewage dumps into. And then people go into those to bathe, or go in to fish or to whatever, and then, they're up to their ankles, up to their knees, whatever, in that same water that human waste have been dumped into, and there you go. They are now exposed. Figure about 200 million people worldwide have some form of schistosomiasis. So while it's not a major clinical problem, it's still a high enough incidence. Very low incidence here in North America and Europe. Exposure for us will be due to travel to those areas, hiking through waterways, things like that. More often than not, clinically, what you're going to see here in North America is people from those areas coming here, migrating, immigrating here, and then presenting with issues and going to a local hospital, local clinic.